everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Sunday Cook with me. Well, it's another super Sunday. Actually, it's 83 degrees here today. It's not really a soup day, but with the air conditioning on, we'll enjoy it just fine. Today we're going to be making an Italian meatball soup. Now, this is a great soup for those of you who are running around doing errands or getting home from work and need to get something on the table, because it only takes about 30 minutes start to finish. 40 minutes if you include the prep work with the chopping of the vegetables. But the soup itself is very simple, and I think it'll be very tasty. Now, it can be significantly longer if you choose to make your own meatballs, but why bother? You buy them in a bag, all frozen and all made. It calls for a pound of meatballs, which was approximately a half of one of those bags of meatballs that you get frozen in the grocery store. So I'm going to take you down to the counter, and we're going to put together a meatball soup. Now, it's an Italian meatball soup. I'm not going to complete it right now, and I will explain why as I'm getting things together into the pot. So give me a second and I'll bring you down and we'll start the Italian meatball soup. Okay, I have about a tablespoon of olive oil heating up in that pan. And while it's heating, I'm going to chop the two things I need to chop. Calls for half of a medium onion, and this is fairly small onion, so I think I'll probably use it all. Let me get you up here, and so you're not looking at just the soup pan. There you go. Sorry, I forgot you. And what I said is I'm not going to complete it right now because the last step is to add the pasta to the soup pot. It cooks in the soup. And we're not going to be eating for a while. So I did not want to put that in there, because the pasta will continue to grow and eat the soup. And we'd rather eat the soup ourselves. It calls for half of a red pepper. I don't have a red one. We're going to use yellow. And that's really all the chopping there is. I've already going to let these saute for about 5 minutes or so. I've already portioned out my meatball. It's also calling for 4 cloves of minced garlic, a can of crushed tomatoes, some Italian seasoning, some beef broth, and the fusilli pasta. Salt and pepper to taste. I could have used my smaller chopper, but this would be fine. What I'm going to do, I wanted to make it now because I want to let it set and let those meatballs get nice and soft. So it will soak in this broth for a few hours actually. And then just before we get ready to serve, I'll bring it up to a boil and we'll add the pasta. It's a very simple soup to put together. Okay, I'm going to add garlic. And shortly thereafter, I'm going to add the crushed tomatoes. Four cups of beef broth, if I can get it open. That's what this container is. A quarter teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I'm going to add some pepper. And a little bit of salt. I don't want to add too much salt. We'll salt it at the end. And one last ingredient, meatballs. And I'm going to check my list. You can put red pepper flakes in here. I don't have any, but that's okay because Bob wouldn't really like them that much anyway. And the only other thing we're going to need is some basil at the time we serve it, and some Parmesan cheese for serving, and the pasta. So that's it. You can't get much simpler than that. Now I'm just going to bring this up to a simmer and then let it soak for a few hours. So that's the meatball soup. Difficult, huh? I will be back when it's time to put the pasta in. See you in a while. All right, it's a few hours later, and I've got this up to a boil, or just about to a full boil. And I'm going to add a cup and a half of the fusilli pasta. I'll stir it in, and then I'm going to turn this down so that it's just fast enough to have a simmer so the pasta will cook. And it should take about 15 minutes. Let me just get it back to a boil. Doesn't seem like much pasta, but it will take up quite a bit of the broth. And this is really supposed to be a brothy soup. And if it gets too thick, you can add a little bit more beef broth. Some crushed tomatoes are thicker than others. But anyway, I tasted the broth earlier, and it tastes like a very rich tomato soup because of course it is tomatoes and it has the beef broth. And we'll garnish it when we get ready to serve it with some basil and probably some Parmesan cheese. And I'm going to serve it with either a wedge salad or peanut butter sandwich. I think a peanut butter sandwich would go good with this. All right, it's coming back to a boil. I'm going to turn it down, and I'm going to put it at 3 right now, because I don't want it not to boil, because otherwise the pasta will just sit there and kind of grow. I want it to boil enough that it's going to cook the pasta. And I will watch it. I'll probably stir it once while it's cooking, just to make sure that the pasta doesn't get stuck to the bottom of the pan. Now, I see no reason why you couldn't make this in the crock pot. I would do probably 2 hours on high and maybe 1.5 hours in, or I would open the crock pot and add the pasta. And then once it's cooked, you can put it down on low. But again, don't cook it too far in advance, because the pasta will keep eating the soup. It'll keep eating the broth. I remember one time I had a super Sunday where I made a lot of different soups. And one of them was chicken noodle, and it was a delicious homemade chicken noodle. But by the time people got to eat it, there wasn't any broth left. It was like just chicken and noodles. No broth. Because the noodles kept getting bigger and bigger and eating the broth. But that looks like a pretty good boil right there. And you can see it is just enough that it's going to cook that pasta without just letting it sit there. Okay, next time we meet, it'll be time to get a taste test. Back in a bit. Okay, there you go. Look at that. You see the fusilli pasta? I don't know if you could put more pasta in there or not. I don't think so, because you want it to be a brothy soup. It's really nice and brothy. Do you think I have a big enough bowl of it here to try? I took a little out just so I'd be able to get near it, because it's quite hot. And we'll be eating shortly, so I just put it on my warmer burner. So let's see if I can get a taste test. Well, okay, that's as good as it's going to get, because I don't want to turn towards the TV and have to do all kinds of whatevers to block the football game. Let me just try the broth and see. Very good. Like I said, like a really good tomato soup. I have a piece of meatball, piece of pasta. That's delicious. Now, I don't have the basil or the Parmesan cheese in it yet, but and I mean, you're going to have company over at the last minute. You can throw the soup together in half an hour. Keep some meatballs in the freezer. And you don't have fusilli pasta? Use whatever pasta you have. That's it. I'm going to stop because we're having happy hour and I'm going to go get happy. Anyway, this is excellent. Excellent, excellent. We haven't missed yet on one of these soups. This is very good. I'm going to get some fresh basil out of my garden and put that on it when I serve it at dinner time, along with some Parmesan cheese, and enjoy. So do try this. I mean, it's simple. I mean, you saw there was nothing to it. You cook up the peppers and onions a little bit with some garlic, and the rest of it you add, and that's it. Well, good morning. It's actually the next day right now. And I just wanted to come on with a little bit of a serving suggestion and a little disclaimer. The soup was delicious, absolutely delicious. But within 1 hour of serving that soup, there were no broth left. The macaroni had completely devoured all of the soup broth. So my suggestion would be, do not cook the pasta in with the broth. It does give it good flavor, but it just takes over the soup. Cook the pasta separately, and when you serve it, serve a bowl of pasta and the pot of soup. Have everyone put in a spoonful of pasta into their soup bowl, or how much they want, and then load the bowl up with the brothy soup on top of the pasta. And I think you will get a lot more enjoyment out of the soup after the first serving. The first serving for us was great, but there's no soup left now. There's almost like a goulash consistency. So do that, try that, not putting the pasta in with the soup. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. It was delicious. And I'll see you again on Wednesday. Love you. Bye-bye.